I say very important because it is very strategically important, economically important, and of course, it is giving a lot of goosebumps to other countries. I remember 26th of December 2004. I was that time in training command as this, what Army would call it, the chief of staff. And 25th December is my birthday, and then we went to 26th for a belated birthday bash. Went to see a movie, and then got a call from CNC, who's also here at the moment, saying that bingo, there has been a tsunami. This is the first time that I ever heard a word like that. But he said, let's get down to Tamram straight away, and we need to activate. Training command has been put in charge of this whole thing. And that's the first time that we went to Tamram and thereafter went to Great Nicobar. That's our Air Force station. And hats off to those boys. They had to vacate their houses in pajamas, lungis, and they came to the runway and they flew throughout, making sure that disaster management took place. Some of them, one met also even lost his family, and that kind of thing. So there was of course, that's a long story and a memorial has been created. But now we are once again back to Car Nicobar, Greater Car Nicobar project, because I think it's strategically so important, very close to what is called as the 6-degree channel. 6-degree channel is one of the deepest channels and the most used channel by shipping, especially our northern neighbor. He goes to Myanmar through that, and most of us talk about CPEC. Actually, just read the news about Gwadar being reactivated. But while Gwadar to the rest of the access to China is very very far, the CMET is not very somebody talks about. And that is China Myanmar Economic Corridor. And that is where the Chinese are wanting to get more often than not the oil tankers, etc., so they can get to Yunnan province where there are a lot of refineries. So now they're very worried there will be astride that traffic. They will be also monitoring all the shipping which comes in the Indian Ocean and all the string of pearls, etc. So while there are concerns being raised about environment, a lot of trees likely to be fallen, and there are going to be some tribes which are going to be affected. But there is always this balance that needs to be created between development, especially when it comes to strategic issues, and the environment. So the development, and that I'm sure all the thought has been given to this particular project, and that in phases will ensure that the environment also is retained in its own way, and that we move ahead with this very important, because as you know that more often than not we are using Singapore or Colombo for transshipping our freight. Our containers are moved to those ports because deeper ports, and thereafter they're brought to India in smaller ships. So I think this particular thing is going to be very, very game changer. And I think we have a great expert panel at the moment. We have Dipendu Chaudhary from the Air Force. We have Admiral Pawar from the Navy, who was the Deputy Chief. And we have Rajiv Chaudhary from DGBR. Excellent, presentation he had given us. And of course, we have Brigadier Mahajan, who had commanded unit there so there would be a lot of first-hand knowledge. And the moderator is a very well-known, articulate person, that is Major General NITIN. And I'm going to hand over to Nitin, who will introduce all the speakers, and thereafter give them the specific time so that there can be a relay between the speakers and there could be enough time for question answers, and then request Shishir Mahajan to conclude. So thank you very much. All the very best. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Bhushan, sir, good morning to everyone, and thank you for that introduction. On behalf of CAS, I welcome all the speakers as well as those who are online for this very important subject, which has been in news, I dare say, for wrong reasons. And CAS has taken this initiative, and I've seen a lot of people exchanging either mails, notes, or even in the paper about what is right and what is wrong about this. Now, Great Nicobar Development Project is not something which is new, and it is not something that the NDA current government had started. It goes way back. In fact, some people attribute it to Shri Rajiv Gandhi, who went to the Great Nicobar Island in 1987. Before that, his mother had gone, and that is how the point moniker. Indira Point got name. Of course, the tsunami that Marshal Gokhale referred to just now was the trigger which diverted the attention to Great Nicobar. By the time the Chinese had actually started spreading its wing in the Indian Ocean, Indo-Pacific region, and the tsunami coupled it together, it was the first time when we really thought seriously about the Great Nicobar project. But it was not till 2014 when the current government came and under Shri Narendra Modi got the impetus, and Niti Aayog started doing some kind of a planning work for that. It was in 2021 that finally sanctions were sought. After the initial planning was done, sanctions were sought for by the government with various ministries, and it has taken 5 long years to the February of 2026, when it is said that all the sanctions from the various ministries, the forest, the tribal, the coastal CRZ, the National Green Tribunal, all of them are now with the government, and it is serious time to start the DPR for the Great Nicobar project. Now, it doesn't require RAND Corporation to tell us the strategic importance of this string of islands, including the Nicobar, Great Nicobar. It is a gift of geography, a golden gift of geography that has been gifted to India, which has stretched its arm right up to the mouth of the Straits of Malacca. Knowing the current times, the importance of these choke points, I think it is strategically really what should I say, a divine gift to us. And with China expanding its reach in the Indo-Pacific, this is going to be the game changer, as Marshal Bhushan Gokhale said a while ago. Today, CAS has got assembled together a very eminent panel of people who are experts in their own right and who are going to speak about it. And let me introduce the panel, and I'm introducing them the way, in the sequence in which they are going to come. First is Lieutenant General RAJIV Chaudhari, who Marshal Gokhale referred to as a highly distinguished engineer officer who retired as the Director General of Border Roads. General officer has undertaken strategic projects all across, including the Andaman Nicobar. Now, he has the first-hand knowledge of projects there. I've seen his writing. He has extensively written on the subject of the projects there, and we look forward to his first-hand information and first-hand experience to illuminate us. The second person on the panel is Vice Admiral M.S. Pawar, once again a very highly distinguished, decorated and professionally competent qualified officer. The Admiral was the Deputy Chief of Naval Staff when he retired, and in that capacity he was overlooking all the operational projects, including the one at ANC. On top of that, he was also the Chief of Staff of the Eastern Naval Command, where he had a bird's eye view of what was going on. So it will be once again a highly educative experience coming from him, whatever he has to state, and I welcome both of you. The third is Air Marshal Diptendu Chaudhary. Now, Air Marshal Diptendu Chaudhary is not new to anyone. He's probably today the last word on air power, sought after by everybody in the country, all news media, print and electronic. He's a fighter pilot of over 5,000 hours of flying. He's a prolific writer and has written a lot about air power, across air power, including in the maritime role, and written something on the Indo-Pacific also. And we look forward to his contribution today in this roundtable or seminar, as we say. The fourth and the last panelist is Brigadier Mahajan. Now, Brigadier Mahajan is also a very well-known name in the Marathi world of print and electronic media. Every second day he's either writing an article or he's on the Marathi TV channel. He writes on myriad subjects. He talks on various subjects, but he specializes on maritime lately. The advantage is that he has served actually as the CEO of the Lone Infantry Battalion in Andaman Nicobar. So he has the ground level knowledge and understanding, and we will bank a lot on him on issues that relate to Andaman Nicobar as far as the objections of various people are concerned. Now, as you know that the project has strategic importance, but at the same time, it has met a lot of criticism, mainly from the opposition and the environmentalists. So we will bank on Brigadier Mahajan to clear some of those issues. Now, before I hand over to the first panelist, let me say a word about the conduct. First, each panelist is requested to make his opening statement. Each one of them has been given a sub-theme. They will explain that for 10 minutes. I request them to submit before 10 minutes, because today we are on a very tight timeline schedule, because we want to accommodate many, almost all views that would come our way. That would be followed by a small panel discussion amongst us. After that, we will leave the whole discussion open for Q&A with all those who are online participating. Hopefully, that should be a fruitful one. And in the end, I will sum up, and General Mahajan will give a vote of thanks. Also, I wish to make a statement here that the discussion today has to be restricted purely to strategic, economic, commercial, and environmental issues. Politics is not part of this discussion. So what Rahul Gandhi said or didn't say can come in the papers, but probably we can avoid.
Thank you. Technology was... I will go exactly as per the instructions of General Gadkari. In fact, when I heard first time his name, I was really amazed that there can be two Nitin Gadkaris in the country. Here all the panelists, and of course I would mention in my time of 10 minutes about Air Marshal Gokhale, who gave me the opportunity when I retired and came here to speak on border roads. And then of course General Mahajan, who was my DS in IMA in my platoon. Of course he has shaped me where I am today. I owe a lot to him. And his brother Brigadier Mahajan, he was my DS in higher command. And of course, Admiral Pawar, we stay in the same society, and Deeptendu and me are NDA course mates. So with this background, I'll start, and I will stick to my time. Today, Great Nicobar project sits on the intersection of maritime, logistics, and aviation, and also the strategic leverage, where it can't be better than this. It is just approximately 150 kilometers from Sabang port in Indonesia, and it has got a deep draft of 18 to 20 meters, which is required for any ultra large vessel to go in. So it has got all the advantages what a port can have, and it sits on the 6-degree channel, as already been brought out by General Gadkari. So with that advantage, government has already planned, as mentioned by General Gadkari, that in 21, Niti Aayog conceptualized this project for rupees 81,000 crores to be completed in 3 phases. That is, first will be 10 years till 2035. So incidentally, the clock has already started ticking, despite all the resistance, opposition of various people, as been mentioned. And the second and third phase will be 6 years each. So in this, there will be 4 major things to be coming up. That is international container transshipment port, and a dual use airstrip of 3.3 kilometers, a power station, dual gas and solar of 450 megawatts, and a small township which can have a population of 3 lakh people, primarily for the support staff. And of course, there are other things which will be coming up that will be in the later phases. This port, when it will become a mother port for all our ports, starting from Kolkata to Visakhapatnam to Chennai in this arc. And of course, the Asian ports on the other side, be it Kalang or Sabang or other like Singapore. So it can become a mother port, because 30% of the trade, world trade, passes through Malacca. And that is a great advantage to be there. Today, India is dedicating approximately 75% of its maritime trade, and depending upon the foreign ports like Kalang, Singapore, and Colombo. So in this process, we lose revenue to the tune of approximately 18,000 crore per year. That is huge. that is approximately 13 to 14% of our GDP, which is far above the world's benchmark of 8 to 9% of GDP. And primarily 40% of this trade goes to Colombo, the transshipment. So it will not be wrong to say that Sri Lanka's economy is being written by us because 40% is a huge amount. So once this port comes up or this facility comes up, it will save that kind of a revenue, and it will start generating revenue because it will have free trading zones, it will have ship repair facilities, it will have warehousing, it will have everything what a major port can have. In fact, this is a unique port in the world, which is approximately 1,200 to 1,300 kilometers from the mainland, which supports it. Nowhere in the world such kind of a port has come up, and may not come up because the geography is our destiny, and we are sitting on this island chain of 750 kilometer frontage, where we can control all our offshore drilling for the hydrocarbon, for any other minerals, part of the OALP, which has been launched, 11th plan has been launched in fact, March this year only, and 2.4 square kilometer of area in around the Andaman Nicobar is being explored. So it is not only for the trade or not only for the strategic purposes, but it is also to safeguard our interest in this region. So having said that, I also must tell you that there are environmental issues which will be discussed by other panelists. But I must also tell that the string of pearls which has been created by China, from starting from primarily Djibouti or to Gwadar to Hambantota to Chittagong to Kyokyu. So it is the crown of necklace of diamond what India has visualized over past approximately 15 years or so, where we connect the Changi to Cameron to Sabang to, on the other side, on the western side, Dukum to Chabahar, and of course Assumption Island and Agalega. So we are naturally countering that string of pearls what we have been listening till now, which was created due to the Malacca dilemma by the China. In 2003, they started working on this. So China is very much worried about this. And the crown of this necklace of diamonds sits at Great Nicobar, and that's why these forces, anti-national forces, and other people who don't want India to grow the way it is growing, they have been resisting in open domain. So I will restrict myself to, again, economic and maybe the engineering part of it. So as natural draft is already 18 to 20 meters, which is very much sufficient. So no much dredging will be required. But the concerns of environmental concerns are there, which will be spoken, but the concerns of climate and weather. Now, this island sits on the seismic zone 5. And as Air Marshal Gokhale mentioned in 2004, when the tsunami came, there were a lot of devastation on the air facility station there. And of course, INS Barge, a lot of destruction and loss of lives were there. So this project is going to be on higher platform. The way we are going to design this will be free from any destruction. So the special engineering technology and methods will be used to protect it from that tsunami kind of a thing in future. That is one. Then it is also cyclone proof. In this region, a lot of cyclones keep coming. So that will also be taken care of while engineering this project. And thirdly, since there are a lot of rains in the region, so the window for construction will be limited. And as I told in the beginning, the nearest port is Chennai, which is approximately 1,200 kilometers. So logistics will become a problem. Any port which is constructed from scratch on a mainland, it will have approximately 1/3 cost of the project what we are going to handle here. It is 81,000 crore. It may go up also, depending upon how things work out. Do we follow the timelines, what has been specified for the project of 22 years, and we want to finish it by Amrit Kal. So that will be a major issue of transshipment of all the raw material from sand to cement to steel to aggregate. to transship all the machines, drilling machines and the cranes, and then transship and create a small city. In fact, before the project per se comes up, there will be a different project which will be created for housing the men. There will be approximately 40 to 50,000 people required for constructing this. It's a huge project. And the storage facilities for the material which is going to be used there, the other support systems, the machines. So it is going to be a tough job. It is going to be a unique thing. It's an engineering marvel and logistic challenge which is we are going to face in this region. And more than that, of course, when other panelists speak about it, it will come up. But it is going to save a lot of revenue and generate more revenue to the government. And there will be, of course, zero deviation. It is, as I told, it is sitting on the 6-degree channel. So there are a lot of advantages of this project. And nowhere else in the world this kind of a project has ever been attempted or may not be attempted, because such geography does not exist anywhere in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, General Chaudhary. I have a number of questions for you, which I'll take on once all the panelists finish that, which includes, of course, you answered the logistic part of it, but also how important and how difficult it will be. I will now request the second panelist, Admiral Pawar, who would be covering the naval dimension. Of course, the subtopic given to him is strategic enhancement of India's defense paradigm to the Far East. He will be speaking about the Navy and how Navy looks at this project as far as its extension is concerned. Admiral Pawar, please.
Good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Air Marshal Gokhale, my co-panelists, very distinguished ones, my co-colony mate, General Chaudhary, Qatar Army Enclave, General GADKARI, General Mahajan, and very, very interested audience. It's a pleasure for me to be amongst you today. Rather, it warms my heart to see landlubbers in a landlocked Pune discussing matters maritime, thousands and thousands of kilometers away, put into a port in the Great Nicobar Islands. As was mentioned about tsunami, I was myself commanding INS Kothar in the East Coast in 2004. And coincidentally, exactly 5 years ago, during my pre-retirement visit to the Andaman Nicobar Command, I was in this very place on the 13th and 14th of May. I was in Nicobar, in Kardip and Great Nicobar Island. I have visited the site exactly, I think, yeah, on 14th of May, 21, I was at the Indira Point, so to say. And in discussing various aspects as I laid out, I sometimes feel that we are putting cart before the horse. The project is still on the drawing board. It is yet to fructify. And here we are, military men, discussing military implications of a commercial project that is starkly in contrast with what the Chinese do, for example, in South China Sea, aimlessly throwing all international norms and United Nations conventions and laws of the seas, the winds. They have reclaimed many, many islands in the Spratlys and the Paracel group of islands, constructed military infrastructure there, and they have not even once had a single seminar on discussing strategic and military repercussions of those mega infrastructure projects there. All they say is that this is peaceful rise of China. It is about search and rescue, traffic management, enhancing safety and security of maritime traffic. It has got no maritime repercussions. While it is well known that it is a blatant lie, and those islands have actually been militarized. Therefore, I would urge CASA in particular to desist from discussing military strategic implications of this project. Strategy does not only mean military strategy. There's an economic strategy, there's a marketing strategy, ecological strategy, etc., etc. Coming back, a little bit of the caveat here. I am not at all going to talk about the economic viability, the structural viability, ecological, the sustainable development goals, the social impact and environmental impact assessments. And clearly, because these are matters to be sorted out by the government, the opposition, etc. And these are, I think, far beyond my area of specialization, notwithstanding the fact that I steered the project Seabird, Karwa, the largest defense infrastructure project, which had exactly the same elements of an airstrip, a naval dockyard, a huge port, reclamation, land issues, resettlement, pollution control, environment control, etc., etc. I'm keeping that off. A little bit of a historical context. Exactly 1,000 years ago, in 1025, 1026, the great Rajendra Chola led a maritime expedition against the Srivijaya Empire, and it is not coincidental that Port Blair has been renamed as Srivijayapuram. It is interesting to note that the great Chola fleet left the shores of Tamil Nadu, navigated towards the Sumatran island, and entered the Western Pacific through Sunda Strait, while the Srivijaya fleet was waiting to give battle at the northwestern end of the approaches to Malacca Strait. They did an approach from 180 degrees opposite. They crossed Sunda, they ransacked the Srivijaya capital at Palembang, and checkmated the Srivijayan fleet from Singapore side. And why did this expedition occur in the first place? Because it was the Malacca dilemma of those days, wherein the Srivijaya flexed their muzzles and did not permit free navigation from India to the Song China or from the Egyptians to the Song Chinese. We won, and we opened that the sea route. But unfortunately, over the period, we lost that maritime consciousness. Just day before yesterday in Pune, there were full-page advertisements of Devendra Fadnavis and his cabinet paying tribute to the commemoration of Somnath Temple's 75th anniversary, which was reconstructed in 1951. We will see that exactly 1,000 years ago, in 1026 January, the Muhammad of Ghazni came and ransacked Somnath. And that was the beginning of the end of the maritime consciousness of India, wherein our entire focus was on the continental invasions. We lost the initiative at sea. Today, as General Chaudhari brought out, the grand project is taking shape, at least on the drawing board at present, and we are building like India has never built such maritime infrastructure in a place called Great Nicobar Islands, or Indira Point, which is the southernmost tip of India. Today is also a very important date. We had the second series of the Pokhran 2 blasts, and more importantly, 13th of May, 1498, Vasco da Gama was less than 100 nautical miles from Calicut. He made landfall at Calicut in 1498. That's another story as to how we lost our freedom because of losing freedom of the seas. Coming back to the location of this project, it is so strategically located, as has been highlighted in media and in this my previous speakers. Just to put it in the right perspective, we are lamenting about the Bab el-Mandeb and Hormuz. The trade of India, or the amount of shipping that crosses the Malacca Straits and the 6-degree channel, is more than the combined traffic through the Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb. It is the largest shipping artery of the world, through which passes 25% of world's energy resources, more than 40% of container traffic, and almost 80% of China's energy imports and 60% of our finished goods exports. Imagine what leverage a location like the Great Nicobar Island port will give to India when viewed in the context of what Iranians are leveraging their location and what the Houthis are leveraging their location of Bab el-Mandeb. This project is, as I said, a commercial project, and because of its location, any commercial project, any maritime port, it need not be a base. You require a place. And if you look at the entire world's maritime deployment, it is not that everybody has got a base or needs a base to deploy maritime forces. You see, Highness Sudarshani, just I think day before yesterday or early this month, she left Casablanca in Morocco, and he has gone to the Verde Islands and is on the way across the Atlantic to the Americas. There are no bases there. The only places to refuel, top up logistically, do some flights, crew change, etc. This project with a airfield and with a port offers us exactly those advantages. If you look at the geography of the Indian Ocean, you have very clear-cut choke points. In the east, the Malacca, the Sunda, the Lombok Straits, and of course the Mumbai and Vetar Straits for the south. To the west, we have got the Hormuz, the Bab al-Mandeb, through which traffic goes to Suez. We've got the Mozambique Channel and the Cape of Good Hope. Our adversary to the north has to venture into Indian Ocean region only through these choke points. Our presence at Great Nicobar Islands, which is only about 80 nautical miles from Indonesia, gives us tremendous amount of leverage and a bird's eye view of how the traffic, the both merchant ships as well as the submarines and ships venture into or venture out of Indian Ocean. String of pearls was talked about. As we know, this is a Pentagon concept not invented by the Chinese, but string of pearls has got absolutely no meaning in wartime and during hostilities, because nobody is going to allow belligerent forces to fuel and top up with their missiles and ammunition when hostilities are on. But it has got tremendous meaning before hostilities break out, where there is posturing, there is poising, there is deterrence. The primary purpose of the Navy, just like the Army and the Air Force, is not to win wars. The primary purpose is to deter wars, as we know from our strategy. And only in case the deterrence fails or is to falter, we are supposed to go up the escalation ladder, fight the war and win it. The deterrence value which a facility, a maritime facility at Great Nicobar Island provides to the Navy is tremendous. It enhances your reach, your sustenance, your logistics, your ability to repair, maintain, and mere presence. It is like a beat constable present on a disturbed area or a strategically important traffic signal. A constable present there regulates and adds to the security, the streamlining, the discipline of that locality. Exactly in the same way, a naval presence or the air presence or the army presence in that place adds tremendous deterrence value and forces adversaries to take into account the capability resident there. We also have got tremendous amount of sub-conventional threats such as drug running, armed smuggling. You got the golden triangle of perhaps the largest narcotics trade, illegal immigration, illegal fishing, etc. Search and rescue requirements. We got the HADR requirements, and as General Chaudhari brought out, this is a seismic zone. We have seen the tsunami. I myself witnessed it. There will be HADR requirements to provide solace in the aftermath of cyclones, earthquakes, and the arc of fire, which is present there, with a tremendous amount of natural disasters which take place. It provides a natural springboard for maritime forces to reach the sites of accident or incident and provide the kind of law enforcement or help that is required. We also have
so 1 minute more, sir.
I'll conclude, sir. We also have a leverage as regards the other ports. We know that there is a project. The Crack Isthmus is under consideration, much to the despair of Singaporeans. Imagine, of course, the Thais have given up the Crore Canal as such, but there's a Crore land bridge comprising of railways and road facilities to overcome the Malacca dilemma, so to say. So there's going to be a greater presence of shipping in the Andaman Sea. We also have a great amount of development taking in the Tuas port in Singapore, where they have expanded the container carrying capacity to 65 million containers per annum. You compare that with a small facility at Great Nicobar Islands. So rise in container traffic, rise in presence of commercial shipping, which and the military shipping follows that commercial interest in the Andaman Sea, I think this project is of great maritime and nautical as well as military maritime significance to all of us. We must not debate too much about the military value of it and follow China's example of bide your time, hide your capabilities, don't take the lead, and don't go about beating drums that this is what we are. Firstly, in India, we are very good at proclaiming, very poor at implementing, and even very poor at maintaining what we have created. In this background, it is better to limit the discussions in the strategic domain to non-security strategic dimensions, such as economic dimensions and others which I mentioned. Thank you very much. I look forward to question and answers. Thank you for the opportunity, sir, for participating in this seminar.
Thank you, Admiral Pawar. I'm sorry to say I probably disagree with you on that here, that I don't think there is any harm in discussing at least what future holds for us, but more of it when we come to the question answer. Thank you for your thoughts. The third speaker, Marshal Dipendu Chaudhary, he will be talking to us on the air dimension as far as this project is concerned. He's written extensively on that, and I'm sure he's going to expound his views on the subject. Marshal Dipendu Chaudhary.
Thank you so much, and thank you very much to very good morning to all the viewers. I think a lot has been spoken. This is a very well debated topic in the past vis-a-vis the importance of the maritime domain. But I will flag and restrict myself to air power aspects, and I'll go on a little granular while I can within the time frame, simply because I feel that there is very little general awareness of the aerial and the vertical dimension when we talk in the maritime context. So I'll just cover my talk under 5 heads. One is the strategic aspects, then look at basically look at what is the strategic dimension in the place in the region. What does regional air power have to play in the role? China's aerial strategy, and finally, I think I will talk a little bit about the civil aviation aspect, which takes enormous salience in this region. Before I sum up, okay, I will not get into the details. We are aware of the IOR and the South China Sea and the Indo-Pac Connect. It's a very critical link. The salience of it is very clear. But I'll draw everyone's attention to a dialogue made by the PM. I beg your pardon. A statement made by the PM in the Shangri-La dialogue way back in 2018. He made 3 critical statements which I think missed most of us. He said, this Indo-Pac and this whole area, India's outlook will be to promote democratic and a rule-based international order in which all nations, small and large, thrive as equal and sovereign. And we will work with other nations to keep our seas, space, and airways free and open. Very prescient dialogue way back in 8 years back ago, almost 8 years ago. And he also made one more statement which was specific to the Indo-Pac, and he said we should have equal rights under international law to use common spaces on sea and in the air. So I think there is no doubt in the mind of a higher leadership on the sanctity and the salience of looking at this region from at least a multi-dimensional perspective, because most of our narratives, I'm afraid, without disrespect to anybody, is purely surface-centric from the maritime domain. So we need to change this outlook. Okay, now 2 aspects. There's something I've written in again 3-4 years ago on it's a paper in VIF on the strategic vision for security vision 2047, what it should be, in which I had mentioned a possibility of creating a strategy of pivots and arcs. So there are 2 arcs, the eastern and the western arcs, of surveillance and of monitoring initially, and subsequently translating into greater influence on our eastern and western seaboards using our 2 island territories. And obviously, I think what is coming out is a long-term strategy, and it is, I think, panning out in the similar manner. But we need to be strategically focused with a goal. So even if while it may be, as Admiral Pawar mentioned, that we must look at it from an economic aspect, but every economic aspect today has strategic implications, which we cannot ignore. So that is another aspect. Next aspect I will quickly talk about is the PLAF and how it has leveraged air power. Okay, we look at it in 2014, they created ADIZ in the East China Sea, and look at the chaos it created. There was a furor internationally. Only thing is, in that point in time, the PLA or China could not enforce an ADIZ, an air defense identification zone, and which was north of south of China and north of Taiwan in the region, East China Sea. But today it has a capability to do it not only in the East China Sea and the South China Sea as well, thanks to those islands which have come up, which was mentioned by, I think, Admiral Pawar in the passing. What the point I'm trying to make is the Chinese are using air power very strategically to push the US out of the second two island chains. They have already succeeded in capacity up to the first island chain in using these islands and its A2AD strategy. And it is looking to push them beyond the two island chain past Guam as well. What has it done? It has slapped on H-6 bombers with air-launched cruise missiles, flown it to Guam a couple of times in the second island chain. And what has it ended up doing? US has withdrawn its permanent bomber presence from Guam to the mainland and now brought it in as a temporary rotational aspect. Now, what is the challenge here? While we look at it from maritime domain, do understand what is China's biggest fear from the US carrier group is its air power, which it brings to the region, because that air power can penetrate its mainland domain. And that is what it seeks to do with A2AD, is to push the carrier group as far out of reach as possible. So this is second aspect, and look at the way it is leveraging, pressurizing Taiwan using air power. So that is the second aspect. Now I'll bring you to an entirely different area. Flowing out of this is the regional air power. You know, when we talk about South China Sea and the region, we never talk about air power. But this region has several air forces. You have Indonesian, Malaysian, Philippines, and Vietnam, which are small, which are upgrading their air forces. Then you have Singapore and Taiwan, which are modern air forces. And all these air forces are independent and not connected with each other, really together as an asymmetric air power capability. India has enormous, what should I say? It has a defense agreement with all these nations in the region. So my argument is, if you look at this region and develop greater air power capabilities, it brings in a vertical asymmetric dimension against China's grey hull strategy in the South China Sea. So it brings in an asymmetry in the vertical domain, which it itself is trying to establish with its island territories. Those three islands of Spratly, Mischief, and Subi Reef, where today in each of these you can position 100+ aircraft and assets of different kind, as well as air defense assets, which effectively seizes control of the vertical dimension of the maritime domain. Okay, the fourth aspect which I want to quickly cover is the air power gap today. From an Indian maritime perspective, we talk a lot about MDA, maritime domain awareness, but that is only surface centric, and it is procedural based on GPS transponders of ships. You switch it off, you disappear. So the point I'm trying to make here, that this two-dimensional domain awareness has to reach into the vertical dimension. Now you cannot cover the entire IOR vertically, but over the island territories and expanding outwards, you can create a fair volumes of airspace, which you have surveillance and sensor shooter capabilities in the long term. They play a tremendous role in this region, because with China's development of these islands, there is a possibility for the Chinese Air Force to reach out and break out into the Indian Ocean. Right now, the PLAF's capability in the IOR is very limited. That is something we need to bear in mind. We do not have adequate air power capacity, but we should not let it distract us from building capacity in the regions. Capability will come. Capability buildup is a long-term aspect. We are already, addressing shortages of aircraft and things like that. But not to cater for air power capability in the region by building more dual-purpose airfields, greater logistics capacities, more and more sensors to increase volume in this region, and later on bring in AD capabilities, which has an offensive capability like the probably what the S-400, which you can see the amount of air defense cover it provides. So this is a deterrence. So these are all aspects which we need to bear in mind in the long term. And this only thing we need to do is for the Indian Navy to understand that there is a need, a lot which land-based air power can provide while it builds up its carrier capacity. Now, that's a long-term way off. So we need to bring in whatever resources we have. I have just 1 minute left. I'll quickly cover one aspect on the civil aviation salience. Southeast Asia, this is about 4 or 5 years ago. It had close to 550 million which invested in global aviation. 11% of global air traffic flows from there. Close to 150 million visitors. Close to 200 plus passenger traffic, which comprises of 17% of the world's population and global cargo movement. It has 800 regional airports, 60 Southeast Asian airlines, and 21 low-cost airlines, which put together brings in more than 2,000 plus fleets. India is expanding its own aviation reach into this region as well. Okay, it is already a fleet of 1,700 aircraft. We are looking at expanding our capacity to about 400 airfields by 2036, 600 plus new routes. We are looking at 300 plus, 3,000 plus aircraft, and a growth in the aviation sector is already 10% plus of the market share. So my argument is that unless and until we bring in this aviation dimension, both from a security and a civilian perspective, we can expand this region enormously. The biggest challenge, I am afraid, is that in our mindset, we either look at it from a purely economic perspective, a purely naval maritime perspective, purely civil aviation perspective, or an Air Force security perspective. There's a need to bring it all together. And I think that is where the greatest opportunities lies for us. I'm glad I see beginnings of it already. We have done this enormous exercise last year in India. And I think we also have a greater engagement with the Malabar exercises. There's a greater understanding of the domains in this region with air forces of Japan, Australia, with whom we are already exercising. It is a vital aspect of this airfield. So I will not, while I did not specifically focus on that, but you can imagine what the capacity building can do in this region, and not only on our eastern seaboard, on our western seaboard as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marshal Chaudhary. You have so succinctly brought out the need for air power. And to that extent, I agree with you that there is a huge scope and there is a huge requirement. We will get back to you on this in the question answer session. Our next speaker is Brigadier Hemant Mahajan, who has been, apart from everything else, like I mentioned, he's been the CEO there. So Brigadier Mahajan, we would be looking at you to cover in some aspect as to the objections that the environmental groups have risen and the locals have stated, which have been echoed by the political parties also. And also to some extent, if you can let us know as to, how do the tribes look at it, the local tribes look at the development in Andaman and Nicobar? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Nitin. I will cover all the points, but before I start the question that you asked me, I want to cover certain ground level realities, When you look at the island territory, you realize that these islands cannot be attacked from the western side because the area is rocky. It is only from the eastern side that enemy who wants to attack the islands can attack them. So your one side is completely sort of protected, almost nobody can come from there. Number two issue that we have to understand is that presently there's a brigade there. So 2 battalions plus 2 territorial army battalions are there. Generally, what do you protect in the 750 island? What do you protect? So generally you protect where the bases are there, where the advanced landing grounds are there, where jetties are there, where airfields are there. I will say it for the nth time that Swatantraveer Savarkar had said a long time back that this chain of islands is like a sea fortresses line, which is about 1,300 kilometers from your mainland on the eastern side. You have a unsinkable aircraft carrier at Diglipur, you have one at Port Blair, you have one at Karnik, you have one at Campbell Bay. And many more can be developed because there are some bigger islands where some more air assets can be developed. And actually, frankly speaking, whole of India is actually an aircraft carrier. We have such a huge coastline, both on every side. So the implications are that from here, if you can fire drones and which is our flavor of the day, and missiles, another very favorite things, almost anywhere and everywhere in South China Sea or whichever is your area of where you want to carry out any operations. Now, this place has got, in addition to the Air Force, to the Navy and Army, there's another very important component here called the Coast Guard. In fact, their ships are the ones who practically move into all the creeks and infiltration and all. They are the ones who are responsible for coastal security, and they have a joint operations center, and the maritime domain awareness is quite good, quite good. And even the Andaman police do a fair amount of patrolling, because they are all our island territory people only. So anybody and everybody can do patrolling. So basically, when you talk of deployment of army, we have done enough number of war games there as to what will enemy attack with. If you have a brigade plus in that area, you require at least a division, at least 3 times more force to come and do something in the Andaman Island. And China is so far away that for them to build up a worthwhile force for carrying out any offensive operations against Andaman and Nicobar Islands is not easy. They may occupy an odd unoccupied island, but there are contingencies available in which you utilize the landing. There are many ways you can capture an island occupied by the enemy, by heliborne landing, by raids, by carrying out amphibious landing, etc. So all that I could have spoken on this issue for a long time, but because of paucity of time, all that I want to tell you is that the islands are very heavily defended in terms of manpower, including Karnik. A battalion headquarters with 2 companies is located there, and not to talk about the territorial army battalions which are there. That is one aspect. And secondly, now there are our troops deployed in the south, especially the ones at Sikandarabad. I don't want to get into the details. They have also done enough practices here. So the level of force level that we can build here, the Chinese simply can't do it. So that is one thing that you have to understand. Now, these islands are almost about 700, 800 kilometers long. And if you declare the airspace on the top as no-fly zone, as they have done in Iran, nobody would be able to go to the Southeast Asia. And when you sit at Port Blair, every half an hour you see an airplane flying over the top of your head. And if you have declared it as a no-flying zone, my God, Iran with very little airspace created a problem for everybody. We can create a problem for the half the world as far as airspace on the top is concerned. To speak just 2 lines about the weather and the geography there. 11 months in a year it is raining. There's one ridiculous point which the environmentalists have raised. They say trees will be cut. There can be nothing more funny than this. There are so many trees there. These are all a evergreen forest, equatorial forest. You remember in good old days, you talked about how quickly trees grow there, So cutting trees is just no issue at all, because anything and everything within 1 month or 2 months, you'll have a tree growing there. As far as the other part is concerned, the weather is very, very unpredictable. So therefore, you got to have assets which can go in the rough sea. I'm not talking about Navy, that Admiral Pawar can take care of. But even if you want to use drones, you want to use helicopters, you want to use assets that fly in the air, you have to ensure that they're able to withstand rigorous weather challenges. There are this island, unfortunately, we talk about what happened in the past and all. We have never exploited the commercial potential or the economic potential of this island. Andaman and Nicobar Island must be the only place in the world where fish die because of old age. Have you ever heard fish dying of old age? No, they do die here because we don't catch them. And there are poachers who come from all over. Just imagine people coming from China and Indonesia and Myanmar and poaching in our area. And our eastern coast, where there is so much of coastline there, they can't come and do fishing here. The people come here to catch hold of sea cucumber and all. I don't want to get into the wealth which is lying at the bottom of the ocean. Chinese come from a long distance and exploit it, and we sitting there are not able to exploit it. So therefore, the challenges there are poaching. Poaching is hell of a lot. We must catch our own fish and not let anybody catch our fish. Second is illegal Bangladeshi migration. When the tsunami took place, I'm surprised nobody ever spoke. The Bangladeshis who came to rebuild the island never went back. Okay. And I heard Rajiv Chaudhari clearly telling us that when Nicobar Islands are going to be built, he's going to get 50 or 60,000 people. Rajiv, be careful. Half of them are going to be Bangladeshis. And do ensure that once the work is complete, they are sent back. Otherwise, I remember we went for a recce to North Andaman Island, and without looking left and right, we saw Bangladeshis there, but no time to talk about this in detail. Now, the next issue there is smuggling. And we talked of transshipment. A lot of smugglers use the unoccupied island as a staging area. And I when we started the talk, I was first telling you we came from Punch, going for a patrolling. The people in that LST saw smoke coming out of an island which is not occupied. By talking to Fortress Commander, we decided to land there, and we got hold of 300 Myanmaris there. And Myanmar and this moving population in this for smuggling, for doing many things is quite a lot. And the most dangerous part from my point of view is, all of us have heard of an area called Sundarban. Now, what does Sundarban got to do with Andaman and Nicobar Island? 66% of the Sundarbans is with Bangladesh. I'm worried about that. There are about 2.5 to 3 crore Bangladeshis who are staying there, and they're going to be underwater in another 5 to 6 years. Where do you think they will go, Nitin? You make a guess and you'll be right. Okay, half of them will come to Andaman Nicobar Island, and other half will go to West Bengal. Hopefully, now Mamta being not there, maybe they'll go to Orissa. You know, Orissa coastline incidentally is flooded with Bangladeshis. Why only blame Mamta? You know. So Bangladeshis is going to be a huge problem, because anybody who comes for work here never goes back. Then what you have to understand here also is that there are two channels here, the 10-degree channel and the 6-degree channel. 6-degree channel, Rajiv and everybody spoken about it, but 10-degree channel is basically a channel between the Andaman group of islands and the Nicobar groups of islands. It has a lot of potential in terms of movement. I mean, Admiral Pawar would be a better person to talk about it. There are degree of difficulties, but we all have heard of, building up your forces by infiltration and all. So that's a good place from where we can do a lot of things. The next point I want to talk about is that in these islands, a lot of ex-servicemen were settled. To be precise, about 350, including one from my battalion, 7 Maratha Light Infantry. A boy from Nanded is settled there. So I can write a thesis on what they are doing there. Though the 350 families have now increased 4-folds because they've been there for so many years. So what I want to tell you there is that these are a very good asset. And in the concept of settling ex-servicemen, we should follow on the other islands where the habitation is very, very sparse. I mean, everybody knows that there are only 29 islands where the people are there. Rest, they are not there. To ensure that the presence is there, that of a uniform community, we must settle more number of ex-servicemen there, because they straight away bring a security angle to the whole thing. Coco Islands, every second day, somebody would ring up, somebody's come to Coco Island, please go and see it. I won't talk about Coco Island, etc. But I can only tell you one thing, that when the project is prepared, Rajiv, this ex-servicemen, the compensation that you're giving them, they have only one complaint. It is not sufficient. You are paying them at the rate of local rates. Locally, the land is very, very cheap. So they don't want money. I mean, a person having 40, 50 acres of land will not even get 16 lakh rupees, What they want is equivalent land elsewhere. Okay. In fact, I don't know, Shishir, we have a postmate of ours called Colonel K.V. Cherian. He's the head of all the ex-servicemen there. I mean, he can tell you a lot about it. In fact, he sent me a detailed project report of this whole project. So if anybody of you is interested, I can send you a detailed official project report as to how this project is going to come up. I would have spoken more, but I'll quickly come down to the some other point. The main point that you have given me, Great Nicobar Island.
Already over.
My time is finishing. Okay, I'll keep it short. And then I promise, you said why it is important. Well, it's important. Everybody's spoken about the Malacca dilemma. The biggest choke point can be choked here. But in addition to this, from the Andaman Nicobar Islands, we can help operations against China in the eastern sector. Our Air Force and all assets here, plus we can influence operations from the middle part of the Andaman Islands into the South China Sea also. So whole of Andaman Nicobar is important militarily. Of course, Malacca Strait, anybody and everybody knows. Now, there are certain objections which the environmentalists have raised. One is that reserve forest area, about 190 kilometers, is going to be cut. So that's a big joke. I told you they are going to plant trees elsewhere, but planting trees is the last thing that we need to do in these places, because trees come up on their own, evergreen forest. So that is not an issue at all. So the number 2 point is about this two set of people who are there. One are the Nicobarese tribes, and second are the Shompens. As far as the Nicobarese are concerned, now they are like mainlanders now. Tribe may be for only namesake, but they're doing farming, and they all are gainfully employed in the Nicobar Island. In fact, they're looking forward to getting better jobs in this place. They want a big, because imagine so many jobs are going to be created that they're going to be rich. They'll be richer than Noida or whatever places that you have in Delhi, where people become rich because of getting extra land, etc. You know, so Nicobarese is not an issue. As far as the Shompen is concerned, the Shompen is not even 100. And I have personally seen the Shompens, you know, because whenever the NDC course used to come to Campbell Bay, it was our job to brief them. So everybody wanted to see a Shompen first. Nobody wanted to see the Indonesian coast. So if you showed a Shompen, you did this, and we managed to show them quite a few Shompens. All that I want to tell you about Shompen is, don't think that they are far too much isolated. They get a fair amount of ration from the administration, from the mainland. When a Shompen chap falls ill, where do you think he gets admitted? To the hospitals here. When there's a some kind of a disease coming on, they just don't have any medical capability. What I want to tell you, Nitin, is that these people are not as independent as you think they are. They may be carrying out fishing and all, but when it comes to administration, medical and all those issues, they require a lot of help, and they are quite friendly, except the Sentinelese who just some time back fired few arrows and you thought they were very aggressive, you know. Everybody, in fact, when you go to Jarawaz and all, they come and dance in front of your bus and ask you for some money, you know. But Jarawaz is not a topic today. So it is not as this thing, and hardly 100 people are there. So there's going to be, and the number will reduce further, because they're marrying among themselves. And you know, okay, when you're marrying in the same family, what happens to you? I don't want to get more into more details. Now, the next issue is the turtles. The people are worried about the turtles. A lot of breeding of the turtles takes place there at that Galathin, exact name I won't be able to pronounce it properly. But what is happening is that these turtles will get a place slightly away, where I've been almost 99% of them, the production capability, the nearness of area, ability to reproduce is not going to get hurt at all. They will get adequate place which can be an alternative, but a bit of shifting will take place. Now, there are some exotic trees that they talk about. These trees are only by name. I hardly have seen any exotic tree ever being used, unless after we left there, some people have started using this exotic trees for somewhere. If there's a wooden industry, I'll just give you one example. There's a wooden industry. I mean, since there's a forest.
Sir, last minute to you.
Last minute, okay. Wooden industry. You would think that the wood will come from Andaman and Nicobar Islands. No, it comes from Myanmar. Okay, because the trees that we have are just not up to the mark. The kind of trees that you require, you know. And the next point I would like to talk about is this environmentalist. I'll just 2 points about that. Who are these environmentalists? They are why the same leftist gang, if I may use a word, who will any developmental project taking place, they'll find reasons. What we have to understand is you cannot, it is a question of balancing development vis-a-vis environment. By and large, 99% of environment is going to be taken care of. But you cannot follow this rule 100%, because certain areas, contiguous areas, you require, and there's an adequate thought that has been given to this place. And to my mind, except the turtles who may have a bit of problem because they'll have to shift about half a kilometer, rest, nobody is ever going to have a problem. These two people, I don't know if Cherin is going to come or not, otherwise he'll tell you about the visit that took place from the opposition to these islands. And the people there told him that we want the project to come up. Please listen to me again. We want the project to come up. We want the area to be developed. Why should we get more money and a better way of living? The mainland is having a ball, and we are still into the Stone Age area, and no progress taking place on the name of ecology, etc. Okay, so it is not such a big issue as far as this issue is concerned. And my last point that I would have here is that this is one area in which we can increase our influence into South China Sea hell of a lot. You know, if there's going to be a battle to decide who's the champions, you know, with the last battle with the Chinese, you know. So this basis will act as a force multiplier for induction, for using air assets, for using naval assets, for using armed forces, for inducting people there. So look at it as a forward base, which is going to be very useful to you in the coming days. Nitin, I finished.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think I'll have to moderate your questions a little lesser this time. Thank you for the phase one where everyone has given his views. I would now moderate the next part with some question answers. So as I look at it, there are two issues to this whole story. One is that it is more commercial project and it's a dual use, which can then be used for military also. And second is the environmental protection / environmental objections. I will restrict my questions to these. And my first question comes to General Rajiv. There are two questions that I have, and even maybe Brigadier Mahajan can. Is Great Nicobar, the Galathea Bay, the right place for a port as big as we are envisaging? You're saying about 20 meters. I heard about 25 meters. The reason I'm asking is, along with it, you will have to have a depth in the island. That depth goes into the reserve forest. And that is where the objections of the environmentalists come in, that if you want to create depth to the port, you will have to cut the trees, remove people, the ecology will get disturbed. So is this the right place, or could we have found a different place for transshipment hub that we are talking about? Second is, what is the potential of this Great Nicobar Island in terms of tourism? Will we garner adequate tourism whereby places in Thailand and Malaysia get challenged and there will be a commercial competition? Then there is a point in case of raising two cities as we have talked about. So could you elaborate on these 2 points?
I will respond, sir.
Yeah, please.
So first question about the Galathea Bay to be the right place for this port or not. That as Brigadier Mahajan was telling, the DPI has already been done, and I will not say I was part of this, but then I was being consulted on certain issues because I have also been taking a Southern Command, and that time I was overlooking all the projects across Andaman Nicobar Island chain. And secondly, we are already constructing, when I was DGBR, a number of projects in Great Nicobar for ICG as well as for civil administration. We have constructed a road from Shastri Nagar to Lakshmi Nagar and Lakshmi Nagar to Indra Point, and bridge over Galathea Bay. Now, Galathea Bay is a sizable place. If you see on the map also, I have been there, and through ICG, I have taken round of all along the eastern coast of Great Nicobar, and already they have got a sizable amount of infrastructure available to support their operations of policing and monitoring the 6th degree channel. So it is absolutely right place for the port. And you also mentioned about trees, and also Galathea Bay has got, for this complete project, it requires 161 square kilometer. So that is 16 by 10 on an average. So that includes even the Joginder Nagar and Lakshman beaches, which are there between Campbell Bay and Galathea Bay. And the port itself will have, place to expand. So there's no issue of place for this port of 16 million TEUs. As Admiral Pawar mentioned in Tuas in Singapore, they are making a port of 65 million TEUs, which is means if you take 4 times this port in a small island of Singapore. So there's no issue of space, firstly. And the second thing you mentioned about the city. city will have all this kind of, which is not being mentioned, as someone also mentioned, we should not talk too much about it. City will have all components of resorts, hotels, and all adventure activities of water sports, and also that will be developing between Campbell Bay and Galathea Bay, all along the eastern coast. Western coast will not be touched as per the principle. They are not touching the western coast. And as we mentioned about the displacement, government has also made a plan in the first phase of 10 years. Not a single Nicobarese tribe or the Champagne tribe will be displaced. So they will stay where they are, and it is going to, all these trees, what we are mentioning, also not being cut, in one go. The trees will also be cut every year. All these 8 lakhs or 10 lakhs, whatever figures are coming in the social media. Actually, it is 8.64 lakhs as per the DPR. So they will be cut in a subsequent gradually. So there will not be any problem. And the displacements, there are totally today 1671 as per the census. There are 1671 people. Out of that, 450, 500 are Champagne, and 1050 are approximately Nicobaris. Nicobaris, as mentioned by Brigadier Mahajan also, they are more forward-looking. They have already mainstreamed themselves. When I met there, so I spoke to these people. They are they're seeking jobs. They are educating themselves, and a lot of medical facilities are being given to them. 160 crores of outlay has already been earmarked for the medical facilities, including the boats, ambulance boats, and other infrastructure coming up, static infrastructure coming up. So that takes care of your, I think, both the questions.
I just have a follow-up question to this. Since this is a commercial project, what is the commercial viability of the transshipment hub in terms of volume of traffic, in light of the fact that there is Singapore, there is Hambantota so close to it? Do you think it will get adequate revenue and traffic, or will it be most of it only restricted to Indian vessels coming and transshipping themselves?
No, as this is a zero deviation port, it is sitting just bang on the 6-degree channel. Secondly, even Kalang or Singapore are much away when the trade goes through Malacca, mainly Malacca, and through around Sri Lanka, Hambantota and Colombo. This becomes a mother port, in fact. This becomes a mother port for all this trade which is happening through 6-degree and 10-degree channels. So that is one. And it also becomes the hub and spoke for all the 3 ports, major ports, what we have got on our coast, that is Chennai, Visakhapatnam, and Kolkata, and the 3-4 ports which are there on the eastern side on Myanmar, that Sitwe or maybe Kalang, and other ports, Sebang. Sebang is, in fact, we have already written a MOU with Indonesia for Sebang. Sebang and Great Nicobar have to be developed in consonance, because the distance is approximately 74 kilometers only between these 2 ports. So this is going to become the fulcrum of all the activities which is happening in this region. And more so, we talked about CRA also. CRA is a concept which is a very elusive dream, in fact. It is not going to happen. Even the bridge, the land bridge also will not be workable. So this becomes the major hub of all economic activity. And when economic activity takes place, this becomes the strategic leverage, as mentioned by Air Marshal Dipendu also. So all the historically great powers were continental. We have been a continental power till now, but before they became maritime, they were not in reckonance. So Great Nicobar represents India's attempt to think and build as a maritime power. This is the first initiative we are taking, and this is going to be a major initiative. Today, the center of gravity is shifting from the land to the sea. It is a maritime century for India, in fact. So, from all that point of view, economic is also a strategic. They overlap.
Okay. Got your point. Thanks a lot for that. And I'll come to Admiral Pawar. I respect your views on the fact that you do not wish that we should talk more about it. But I guess somewhere we have to talk, because otherwise how will you clarify mind? For Chinese, it is easy because decision making is easy for them. But I will take you on to the Skra isthmus point, which even General Chaudhary mentioned. So what I have read is that the Cambodia has started making a channel which is connecting through the Mekong River into the Gulf of Thailand. To say that the CRA Isthmus project may not take place entirely, I'm not too sure whether we should actually strategically completely negate it. Should a thing like this happen, what do you visualize would be the vulnerability that the Indian East Coast would face if we do not develop the island chains?
Okay, am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, I just thank you for this opportunity, sir. I'll just add on to what Rajiv has said. Firstly, the project report, detailed project report, was made by a firm called AECOM, based in Gurgaon, which is also my project consultant when I was DG Seabird in Karwar. And they made this thing, and going through the DPR of this project, it is clear that they have examined alternate sites on the west also, 2 sites on the west and 1 site in the east. Similarly, for the airfield, they have had 3 more sites, and finally they have, after a great amount of deliberation, come to these particular sites. They have even Navy is there in Campbell Bay, as you are aware. Campbell Bay also was being considered at one stage, but the amount of dredging requirement, rock blasting, and the depths which are available there. As also there are some suggestions from some quarters that Nankauri Harbour, where INS Kardip is located, which the Japanese had used during the Second World War, should have been considered, etc. But I think the DPR is very clear as to how they have arrived at this particular thing. Second thing is about the tourism potential. I mean, rather than talking about exotic places, of course, there is in the DPR, and we'll have some tourism, etc., etc. India will do well to develop tourism inland. You know, at our seniority, we have been to, perhaps most of the world, we have been to Egypt with the tourism of the dead. Anyway, we have got so much of tourism potential in the mainland itself. If we are able to develop proper infrastructure, safety of women, safety of toilets, and clean facilities, we will do far more. We don't have to invest too much of money in Great Nicobar project to develop tourism, though there is a limited potential. Coming back to CRA Canal, look at the developments which are happening around the world. India, in the last G20, we announced the I2U2 initiative from Mumbai to Fujairah to across the UAE to Israel to Italy and thereon. That was one of the ways was to overcome the Hormuz dilemma. The International North-South Transit Corridor, which is from Moscow to Mumbai, whose southern point was pivoted at Chahabahar. That's the thing. Look at what's happening in the Panama Canal after President Trump has taken power. They have kicked out the Chinese, and Chinese have now started saying any ship using Panama Canal is not welcome at my ports. They have put a death nail. Notwithstanding that, that's a geopolitical stance. The Mexican isthmus, they are building a land bridge across the Mexicans, which will give run for the money to the Panama Canal itself, because you can land your cargo in the Pacific coast, and take it by rail corridor to the east coast in the Gulf of Mexico, and then to the east coast. Similarly, the CRA Canal project has been on the drawing board for a very long time. The Thai people have been very insecure about it because south of the CRA Isthmus, the population is Islamic, who have got loyalties towards Malaysia. The north is populated by Buddhists, and just like the Egyptians have divided the country with the Sinai Peninsula on the mainland Egypt through the Suez Canal, the Thais have been a bit anxious about the security aspects. There, at one stage, the Chinese were so worried about the Malacca dilemma, but they were going and bribing the politicians and shaping narratives in Thailand that why the canal should be built, how it is beneficial, and to a large extent that succeeded. Now they are talking about a land bridge, that is land road bridge, a rail bridge, and pipelines going from Ranong port in the Kra River, to the eastern side, which is going to cut about 1,200 kilometers of maritime route. It's very much viable. We will be Israelis at one stage in this conflict were saying we are going to dig a canal from the Mediterranean to the Gulf of Iliad and then join the Red Sea. So engineering, particularly for a country like China, which is an engineering giant, which has built the 3 Georges dams, which is playing havoc with the Brahmaputra basin in the Himalayas, and they are the largest builders in the world. CRA, not the canal now, but the CRA land bridge is not very far off. For India's perspective, if that thing comes up, it will also mean that the larger amount of shipping traffic will come into the Andaman Sea. larger military forces will follow them. It is not very much in our interest. This is what I believe. We should keep on, because it also gives us other advantage. As long as the Chinese maritime and nautical forces have to traverse the Malacca Straits and Sunda Strait and Lombok Strait, it gives us adequate warning. Chinese submarines cannot transit the Malacca Strait submerged. They have to travel almost a week on surface, and our satellites can pick them up. So from that perspective, I think, we have to be wary of it.
Thank you, Admiral Pawar. Very well answered. I think that's makes a very logical reason to the whole CRA dilemma. Next question comes to Marshal Dipendra Chaudhary. So it's a personal doubt also, that if you want to really develop the Great Nicobar and to keep the kind of air assets, the air role that we are talking about, what kind of air assets would you require there? And it's a potential question. It could be, it could not be. And would it require a change in thought process for the Air Force in terms of its doctrine and in terms of its equipment profile, aircraft profiles? And I mean, how easy or difficult it is?
Thank you, sir. I think you've homed on to two important aspects. I think I'll just put those out of the way first before I answer the question in general. Firstly, I think we have to understand one aspect that, in the maritime domain, it does not need any difference in air assets, whether your air power is operating over the continental domain or the maritime domain, because the air power capabilities which we have are ubiquitous. It can operate over any region. Only difference is, instead of land beneath you, you have water beneath you. So whether it is long-range air defense platforms, long-range strike platforms, long-range surveillance platforms, AWACS, AEWC aircraft, refuelers, long-range ELINT and EW support aircraft, they are all equally capable of operating over land, sea, and in the region. So there is no separate aspect or outlook required. That is the first thing. Second aspect is what you mentioned about doctrinally. Doctrinally, air power roles, maritime air power and maritime roles of air power are well ensconced in our doctrines and air power strategy. It does not need any change. The challenge which has always been in the past, and this is, I want to emphasize on these aspects, is our silo-based approach under the guise of jointness in the past. So the difference where we need to make here in this region is in terms of building assets. And I want to bring out one aspect here, that whenever we talk about building aviation air power capabilities in a region, does not mean basing of assets permanently. And especially in a region like this, which is weather driven, which is brought out by all the speakers very amply, there's an important aspect in this role, in this region. Second aspect we need to bear in mind is that what we really need is building surveillance capabilities, monitoring the airspace, filling the gap over the maritime domain in the strategic areas. Now, you look at the Andaman Nicobar Island chain, and I mean, you all are all aware of it. Look at the kind of, I won't say dominance is a wrong word in a very economic and peaceful peacetime strategic construct, but look at the amount of reach and influence you will have from in the vertical domain over the Malacca and the Sunda and Lombok Straits. So this is something we need to bear in mind, because tomorrow it is not just a maritime presence on the surface. Tomorrow, to be able to track and monitor ships at sea by Navy itself is a long drawn process, whereas aerial response is enormous. Imagine today the naval PA ties picking up aircraft, picking up surface vessels of the plan, and Air Force getting airborne under in a joint with the air-to-air refueling and AWACS, and just fly past those platforms in the IOR anywhere. You don't have to do it every day. You do it once, twice, thrice in a probably 6 months is enough strategic messaging that I can reach you here, whereas you can't. It brings in enormous capability. We as a nation do not think strategically, I'm afraid. We come down to tactical fighting, defending islands, invading islands. That's a long way off. First, let us build strategic presence. You want pivots and arcs and greater influence in the region, bring in air power into the narrative. Understand just the surface domain awareness is not enough. Next is the capability of this island, which I brought forth. Increase air power capabilities in the future will possibly emerge out of South China Sea.
Okay.
This is a front which holds it off. You can pick them up moment they come out of these regions, and you can actually dominate and prevent them. Because do understand, China is tied up with Taiwan and South China Sea. It doesn't have the opportunity, especially the PLAF, to open up into the Iowa region, which is our biggest strategic advantage.
Yeah.
So we have to stop looking at projects purely from the economic perspective, because they have larger ramifications. These ramifications are not just mainland continental security, but also of economic and trade security, which the Navy is more than, more specialist on board. All we are saying is bring in a larger perspective. So I'll just sum up with six points to bring in the whole thing together. Is that we need a wider strategic approach. I mean, we have all attended enough discussions in the past of people who have served in the region, challenges of ANC. I think we have to put the past behind us. We have to move ahead really and use this as a springboard for a greater, wider strategic thinking in the maritime domain, the importance of which is very clear. We need to include the vertical dimension whenever you're talking about security and economic safety and security and regional stability in the IUR. You have to bring in the vertical dimension. You cannot ignore it. In fact, recently I was in one of those my visits to the Naval War College. In these discussions we had, and this issue came up of growing air power and their reach into this region. And that's when I brought out these 2 points of the dimension of the gap in the MDA and what air power brings to it. And it was, I mean, it was not just an eye-opener, it was something which the commandant and all the people realized that, yes, there is a need to think like this. Next is, I talked about strategic arcs and influence. We will not bring in, but what is important, what was brought out by, I think, one of the speakers, I forget who, I think it was Admiral Pawar, I'm not too sure, talked about places and bases. We have our own bases, but if when we have advanced bases in these regions, you get greater access to places, airfields in the region in those Southeast Asia, which we can develop access to peacetime. Again, it was brought out. We will not go to war from there, but most certainly it brings in a regional presence. It worries the Chinese, and I think we have to start opening up our strategic thought in that, just because the Chinese will accept, worry or challenge it, is all the more the reason why we must pursue them. We need to create this strategic asymmetries long term. Leveraging regional air forces, I talked about, they have enormous role, not just from a security, but from surveillance, search and rescue, and HADR perspective. We are a much larger air force. We have defense agreements with all these. So access to regional airfields, air forces, regional civil aviation assets brings in a larger holistic overview of the maritime dimensions. Air power capacity expansion is not easy. We are now struggling with platforms, but those platforms, as and when we keep getting, have enormous capabilities. What we need to build is capacity in the islands. Make sure the runways are all weather. Make sure the runway lengths are adequate. Make sure we lost our runways got damaged in the tsunami. It took years and years for us to get them back into action. Today they are Su-30 capable. Look at the amount of flexibility it brings in. But what we don't have is adequate surveillance in the region to build a larger surveillance capacity. More radars of all kinds, long distance radars, long range radars, high power, low power, medium range power radars, to build a holistic situational awareness volume. Bring in some shooters which are strategic, which can, as and when, they don't need to be permanently based, but just the trials and testing and presence will have enormous capabilities. It doesn't, do understand that air power has an enormous flexibility. It doesn't have to be tied there. It can remain in the mainland and shift to that area back and forth whenever required. And the last point I need to bring in is that we need to find ways and means to link our economic strategies with our security strategies in a larger holistic manner, rather than what I think what Admiral Pawar was saying, that we don't need to get into open debate and discussion of security aspects, but underpin and run the security aspect alongside, probably below vision, with this economic program. Just last one thought, we need an inclusive aero marine strategy. That means Indian Air Force for reach and response capabilities, Indian Navy for presence and persistence. Both are exclusive. Both do not have each other's capabilities. Together, look at what it brings to the region. I'll finish with that.
Thank you. That was no dispute on all those points. So my last question comes to Brigadier Hemant Mahajan, and this is a little different than what we asked. Most of the environment points have already been answered by you and others. So Brigadier Mahajan, do you think with this capability development and dual purpose use and the strategic importance, there is a need for a Marine Corps for India?
Nitin, I'll answer your question, but before that, I'll just want to bring out two points.
Quick, because we have to open it to
real quick. Maritime domain awareness. Additional DG Chafekar is at Singapore, and he can tell you about every ship which is passing from Strait of Malacca. The kind of domain awareness that he has, I don't think you need to know anything more. Maybe one of the days you can get him on this thing. Chafekar was a part of CAS also. He is there for last 2 years. He's going to be there for another 1 year. You don't require anything more than that. Number one, including underwater this thing. Second is I want to tell you about the natural resources. We are number 3 fishing. With our own fish, we can be number 1 superpower as far as fishing is concerned. Number 2, as far as oil is concerned, there is oil which has been found there, but it was commercially not exploited because we were told that only when it crosses $100 barrel, then only will they exploit it. But there's the oil right next to the cantonment there, you know. So maybe more fresh surveys and all. We have not even touched 1% of the natural resources that are existing there. Third point I want to make is about tourism. There was a talk, just 29 islands are occupied, the rest 750 minus 29 is not occupied. There was a talk of handing over these islands for developing tourism, Nitin. You have one for water sports, one for adventure sports, one for aerogliding. There are islands which are more beautiful than Blue Lagoon and whatnot. You know, the natural beauty here is, I mean, something which can even New Zealand and Australia can be put to shame, you know. And this we need to use as far as tourism is concerned, you know. Second last point is about the energy potential of this area. And I'm not talking about this thing, petrol products. The wind energy there is, this thing, waves of the ocean. The potential is tremendous. You can export energy from here to the mainland, you know. That is something which we can talk about. And my last point here is, this was the first command where the joint command came up, you know, and Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, everybody's together. And now everybody is under them. So maybe we need to put more assets here so that we are able to have capability for both defensive operations as well as for offensive operations. You know, the more resources can be earmarked. I lost track of your question that you asked me.
No, don't worry, we'll catch up with something. Thanks a lot for that. We'll get on to questions by the audience. The first question has come from Mr. Ravinder Tripathi, but unfortunately he's talking about a political dimension, so I'm going to leave it because LOP here, I don't think we want to get into LOP and what he is saying. Only so my next question is from Group Captain Purohit, and that question, I will summarize it. The question that I had, and I think that is what he means, that the distance from the mainland to Great Nicobar Island is 1,300 kilometers. How difficult is going to be the logistics of carrying this entire developmental project works in terms of building and other stores there? How easy or difficult it is going to be? What is the scale? Can you just elaborate, General Chaudhary, in brief, what's the magnitude of this whole problem that we are facing?
Yes, sir, in brief, I'll tell you. I was Chief in Southern Command, and we had number of projects being done for ANC and ICG also. At one point in time, we thought that whatever raw material we are transporting from the mainland, primarily from Chennai, why can't we exploit the distances like Malaysia or Indonesia, because they are far closer, 500, 600 kilometers. And we took it to the government, but then due to some reasons of security, that was denied. That is number one. Second thing, I did a very backhand calculation of the raw material which will be used or required for this complete project. It will be approximately 80 to 100 million tons of sand, cement, steel, aggregate, everything. These are the primary material which are required for any construction. And then, of course, the machines, then, of course, the storage facilities. So it is going to be huge. In fact, it is, I sometimes feel as an engineer, how it will be coordinated, the complete thing, how it will be coordinated. It is only 160 square kilometer land area which is required for the construction of the project. And then you require more than that because you have to store things. It is not, you bring it through the ships. And this is only the requirement of the stores required. Then there is logistics, there food, there's nothing grows there for the people. Today there are 9,061 or something people there, means 1,061. Nicobar is 500 Champagne and 8,000 is for the ICG and other people who are staying there. So when the number of these people grow to 50,000 or 1 lakh, now we can understand the logistic requirement for their sustenance. So it is going to be a huge exercise. So that's why I mentioned that it is India's challenge, but it is also going to put India on the world map, that this kind of a project can be undertaken. It is difficult, but it is possible.
Okay, thank you. I think Group Captain Purohit has asked a couple of questions, and one of them is that is it worthwhile in terms of the money that we are going to spend? And I think I'll answer that question. I think government is not looking at revenue as a real means for this project. They're looking at the strategic cost, which is far too great. And if we achieve that, the revenues will come in terms of strategic advantage that we get. So I think we'll move on to Group Captain. This is Commodore Pankaj Mehrotra. He's asking the same question. Bridging requirement during construction phase. Subsequent operations are going to be enormous. Maintenance of aircraft, weapons, and self-sufficiency 1,300 kilometers away required to be thoroughly integrated. In some respect, I think this question has already been answered by both General Rajiv Chaudhary and Marshal Dipendu Chaudhary, that maybe it is not done, but I'm sure it will get covered. Yeah, you have something you can ask. Unmute yourself.
I will add one thing to this. Today, we are the costliest nation in terms of the revenue being given for handling our TUs. 13 to 14% is the highest amongst all the nations against the benchmark of 8 to 9%, what I told of the GDP. So we will be saving approximately 20,000 crore, firstly, revenue which is going outside, and we will be generating similar kind of a revenue. So it is not only strategically, economically also, when the project becomes viable or it starts, we are going to earn revenue out of this economically. Strategic thing, it can never be compared with the economics of the funds. But then in real terms of the money, we are going to earn money from this.
So I had done some research on this, and my research told me it will take us 25 to 30 years to get the cost back. But I don't think we are really looking at getting the cost back as long as we are getting the strategic cost advantage that we are, what we are investing at the moment. Yep.
Sir, my question was about air bridging. Naval bridging is possible by ships taking items from ships and all. But the question is that as Command Engineering Officer of Southern Command and later on of SWAC for two years each, I have realized that unless, especially at the initial phases and in the winding phases, it is important for any project to have severe air bridging requirements 1,300 kilometers away. We have to do it from Tambaram earlier to Karnak, etc. Also, it is important about one thing that I have asked that question. I mean, I've given a suggestion later on. Why not build a steel plant, a cement plant there itself, so that you don't have to take cement to the
So that, I'm sure it will come. But air bridging, Marshal Dipendu, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that's a very valuable point which has been raised, because at the end of the day, as brought out very clearly by General Rajiv Chaudhary, that the biggest challenge in this entire project is logistics, wherewithal and infrastructure to firstly get it together and keep it going for the period of construction. What I think Dr. Mehrotra mentioned very succinctly, it's a very strange thing. To enhance air bridging capability, you need the surfaces to be of a certain length and capacity which can take on heavy platforms. So that is something, to my mind, air bridging will become an important factor once the airfield capacities and infrastructure is built up. Then it will expand. So the further expansion could be supported. The air bridging could support the maritime and the sea bridging. But the initial bridging capabilities by air will be limited to whatever infrastructure is available. And if it is in the neighboring airfields of the neighboring islands, then shifting the entire lot again by sea to the mainland, to the intended place. So it is going to be a challenge. It is a long-term project. I think the focus should be first to build the airfield at the earliest, its loading and unloading capacity and infrastructure, because do understand, because of the weather there, military aviation capabilities and otherwise, because of the heavy rains and moisture, have to have climate controlled environments as well, in that today, especially with avionics and a whole lot of other things. So those are the things which need to be looked at holistically and should be moved on a first track priority, so that the airfield comes up at the earliest to supplement the subsequent infrastructure development.
Thank you very much. I think there are no more questions, and we have also run out of time. I can see General Mahajan trying to give me some kind of an indication. So I will take 2 minutes to sum up. As I understand, and in fact, my thoughts are born out of some of the WhatsApp messages that I keep seeing in articles. And the other day I read an article by a naval officer, I think Commodore Abhijit Singh from ORF. And he has violently raised objections to this project. Coming from a naval officer, I was a little surprised, but then he has his own views. One has to look at this project more in terms of national security as a strategic advantage that we get, and try and balance out all other limitations, needs, and objections based on our national security. Would national security should be prime importance, or should it be driven down at the cost of environmentalists? So this is where the mute question lies. And I think the government is very clear on it, that it sees an advantage in developing this, and it is going to go ahead. And to me, I think that is the right decision. And the panel today more or less agrees with the thought process that I've echoed. There would be dissensions to this in different parts of the society, but we are basically professional armed forces personnel, so we look at national security as a paramount, should I say, priority to the nation, and that is why we articulate what we say. I'm sure today's discussion was wholesome, enriching. The panelists have contributed everything that I know, and I think the level of the whole articulation was, to my mind, very, very high, and I thank each one of them. I also thank all the people who have been patiently listening. There are still 44, as I see on my screen. Thank you very much for this, and thank you, CAS, for hosting such an important so-called roundtable seminar, conference, or discussion. Over to General Shishir Mahajan. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitin. From today's long and interesting discussion, we learned a number of strategic issues. But one very important issue, which I learned only today from General Chaudhary, was it is lesser costly to import from Malaysia to Nicobar rather than sending it from the mainland here. So that option, of course, we can't take it, but it's a very important point which has been made. After this long discussion, we are already short of time, so therefore I would only thank all the panelists, General Chaudhary, Vice Admiral Pawar, Marshal Chaudhary, and Brigadier Hemant Mahajan, and of course our
moderator, NITIN GADKARI, without whose help this discussion wouldn't have rectified. So thank you all very much. And I also must thank the audience. At the peak, we had an attendance of 53, which is a record in itself. And now it is 42. So 53 to 42 is a very good range. So thank you all very much. Jai Hind, and we can log out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Very good, Jai Hind.
Thanks.